Today I'm going to talk about a few insights from this book from Seth Godin called The Practice, Shipping Creative Work. So this book is really about sharing your art with the world and doing so regularly rather than hiding it away and staying safe. So this is actually quite relevant for me because I'm overcoming a period of time in my life where I've not shared my work with the world for a long time, and I've spent a lot of time thinking about what I want to do but not actually doing it. And the main reason that's held me back has actually been perfectionism. And over the years, the more you get stuck in perfectionism, or at least this is how I've experienced it, the easier it becomes to make excuses to continue with that and prolong the procrastination of actually doing the important work, which is also the vulnerable work as well when it comes to making art. So Seth talks about this phrase, which is, "Here, I made this," which is really a phrase of offering your work into the world with generosity. And that phrase embodies generosity, intent, risk, and intimacy. And that's why it's hard or challenging. And that's why it's not something we can control in terms of how it might feel engaging in that process, because we don't know what is going to come up for us, nor do we know how that art might be received once we put it out into the world. And the key thing that he talks about is offering it as a gift with generosity, not as a performance or not as something that is predicated on some expectation of an outcome. And there are three principles which he talks about with this, which are trusting the process and repeating it, focusing on serving the few who matter, and bringing deep intention into every step of the work. So the key thing about all of this is when you engage in this, there really is no place to hide, because all you can do is be where you are with that in the creative process. And that is challenging because it can be confronting. So for me, I love getting inspired by other really talented artists, especially musicians. And I quite often find myself listening to music that inspires me and really letting my imagination take me away into how that inspires me. And really letting myself kind of get worked up into imagining what kind of art I want to create as a result of that inspiration, what I want it to feel like, maybe sometimes what I want it to hear, to sound like. And the challenge, the problem with that's a beautiful thing because it feels amazing. You get all the great rush of endorphins and dopamine that comes with that. But sitting down at a blank page is often a very different reality to that, because there is no place to hide with a blank page. And that is where you need to be fully accepting of where you are in that moment, because that might not be the place that matches the projection that came from that moment of inspiration. And that's where the process and trusting the process comes in. And the thing about showing up with the blank page as well is that sometimes we have to face the reality of those difficult feelings that perhaps have prevented us from getting there, from showing up in the first place. And that's, for me, often been a sense of imposter syndrome as an artist. And that is also something that I think many people feel, and they still create in spite of that. And that's really the thing that I'm engaging in again now, is engaging in spite of what that might be that is preventing it. The other thing as well that Seth talks about in terms of focusing on serving the few that matter. Now, I think really what that means for me is actually trusting that with our unique expression, whatever that outcome is going to be, it's going to resonate with some people. And we don't know who. Obviously, we can't control how many or who they're going to be or any other aspect of that, because once it's released into the world, that part of it is completely out of our control. But I think the part that we have to keep careful consideration of is by staying in our integrity throughout the creative process. It will resonate with the right people, but we just don't know who they are going to be. And that's really the interesting thing here, is that whole process requires letting go of needing a sense of control or wanting to control outcomes, whereas staying in the projections or the perfectionism, that is a means of, or at least having a false sense of control, because we can stay locked in our world of limitation or restriction or whatever that barrier, that perceived barrier is that's preventing us. And that is ultimately what we get from that. It's a sense of control, even though it's really not. It's not actual control. And the thing that Seth talks about as well, which I relate to, is if you choose the path of safety, you die 1,000 deaths, or 1,000 small deaths. He has some phrase that he uses for that. And the way I interpret that is, each time you don't act in integrity and show up and express something that is real and true and share that with the world, by denying that part of ourselves, by staying safe, we die a small death, in his phrase. And I think that's really, over time, that leads to having a sense of being estranged from that deep, true, core soul expression part of ourselves. And that, I think we feel that to some degree, whether that be in a very loud and overt way, or just a subtle sense of just not feeling aligned, just feeling discontent or a hollowness or an emptiness. And I feel like that largely comes from us estranging ourselves, if that is a phrase, from really engaging deeply in what that true artistic expression, that unique expression is for us, and not allowing ourselves to have the space and the presence and the time to explore that and be with that. And so that has been my own realization in recent years, is being very much locked in the safe world of inspiration, of enjoying the process of consuming beautiful art and feeling lit up by that, but not allowing myself to do the challenging and vulnerable work of sitting down with the guitar, for me, or with the open page, and opening to curiosity to discover what my version of that is. Because it's very easy to hear or to receive a beautiful piece of music from an artist that has a very refined sense of that expression, their own unique expression, and because of how refined that is, it has a real potency, it has a real power that, and music, I believe, is one of the most powerful ways that you can light up someone's soul by doing that in a way that is in deep resonance with that. And so it's easy to receive that from someone, and then to go into a sense of imagining what it might be to do that for ourselves. But ultimately, it's not the same as actually showing up and going through the vulnerable process of uncovering that, because it might, well, probably not even might, it does, in my experience, it does require like a peeling away of the layers to discover that. It's a gift that is revealed to us after doing the work of being present and being available with it over and over again, as Seth talks about with the process of showing up. And so these are my reflections on that. This video is me stepping into a new form of expression, and this is something now that I'm engaging with in a new way and sharing in a new way. So if you've watched this far of this video, then thank you for staying with me this long. And if you resonated with anything that I've said here, I would love to hear how that relates to you as well. Okay, I'll see you on another one.